Successory Show, episode 15. This episode is titled Of Excuses and Assholes, which is pure clickbait, just a reason to say the word asshole on camera and on podcasts. With me, as always, is Riley Presnell. How you doing, Riley?
Good. I feel really good. I'm looking at myself in the camera, though, and I'm realizing how pale I am. I'm reflecting light off my chest.
Yeah, translucent.
That's correct.
Yes, our superpower is blinding you.
I look great.
It's cancer-free skin, is the way I look at it.
And it's great canvas for tattooing.
True. We are every tattoo artist's wet dream. We've switched rooms. We have better lighting in here, so those of you who watch us on the video can see that we have much better lighting in here, and we are actually this bright in person without the lights. We normally film in the dark, and you can still see us. So we might be the most pale podcast of all time.
Yeah, people probably don't believe that we're from Florida when we tell them that we are from Florida.
So this weekend I was at a hotel and there was an issue in the bathroom and the lady was explaining to me how Florida water works, and I just laughed. I'm like, because I'm born and raised in Florida. I'm like, yeah, I just drove across the state to be here. I wasn't from out of state. I'm sorry my suntan doesn't express that to you.
Yeah, definitely don't fit the part. But yes, today, of excuses and assholes. Basically, what we're getting at with this episode is that when I was younger, my stepdad always told me, excuses are like assholes. Everyone has them, they all stink. And that applies very, very strongly.
I would like you to know I use baby wipes, so my asshole smells fresh.
That's what you think.
Smell you later?
So that's why he always told me when I was younger. There's a lot of like little isms that he told me when I was younger that have stayed with me for a long time. That's one of them. He used to never let me in the car unless I would answer the question, "What's the word, girlfriend?" And I'd have to say the bird. Or else he'd never let me in the car.
Bird. The bird is the word.
Yeah. So thank you, Chino, for that. But basically what we want to talk about with this is the really annoying and lame excuses that we all tell ourselves for why we can't do the things that we want to do on a daily basis. There are a lot of excuses in powerlifting. I hear them all the time being a coach. I hear them all the time just getting on social media and scrolling through and looking at what people have to say. Excuses are kind of like a plague in our sport.
Oh yeah, I mean, we always look at it from the standpoint of preparation. If you've done everything you possibly could, you were prepared for the moment. Mm-hmm. But often is the case that something doesn't go right or according to plan, even though you had the plan, and then you instantly look for excuses. And that was one of the reasons we had posed the question to our social media groups of, what are some of the most asinine, extremely stupid, or lame excuses you've heard in the powerlifting world? And we have an abundance of them. We have a whole sheet. So.
Some of them were really good. I'll just read through what I have. So, judges too strict. I hear that one all the time. that one, yeah, everyone says that. It doesn't work for me. That's just someone who's unable or unwilling to try something new and they're kind of stuck in their ways. This one was funny. Stretching is for little boys. I was actually told that like mobility and warming up was something similar to that when I first started powerlifting, so that's funny to me. This one's also interesting. Mom didn't buy an extra gallon of milk, so he didn't get enough protein.
Yeah, I don't understand that one, and I don't want to understand that one.
Death will be there on meet day. We hear that one all the time. It's too cold in this venue. Like, I guess apparently they had the doors open and it was too cold for someone to compete well.
I have competed in some interesting conditions. I've competed in a unair conditioned warehouse CrossFit gym in the middle of summer in South Florida where it was over 100 degrees inside. And I've competed outside when it was 38 degrees outside, and it was a unexpected cold snap. And you can't wear like a hat, and you can't wear like elbow sleeves or certain things or long sleeves. You can't touch. So we were there in our singlets in 38-degree weather squatting, and to this day, it's actually my best sleeve squat in the meet, regardless of the condition, because I was prepared. It didn't matter. It was the same condition for everyone. So if you were the only person at that meet who had a bad meet, it wasn't the air conditioning lack of or how hot it was. Is that you shittily prepared, because everybody didn't frickin' bomb out, just you did.
Yeah, if you're the only one that was using being cold as an excuse, then you're just a baby. Another one, very common, I heard this one, I had it multiple times, Trevor had it multiple times, I don't have time. People always say that, we have the same 24 hours in a day.
Worst excuse for anything in life, I don't have time to do that. You do not make time to do that, and that is your problem.
My least favorite. I took too much salt after weigh-ins. bloat is real on the day. If you can't hold on to a barbell, you're gonna have a bad time. But yeah, I mean, excuses.
That comes down to not knowing what you're doing. When it
Yeah.
comes down to the weight cut and the recomp and the
Preparation.
hydration and preparation. If you don't know how to comp and cut, you shouldn't be doing it. Don't worry about if you're competitive or not. 90% of people ruin their meet day by doing stupid things like that because they don't understand the science of it or how to of it, and they think they're just more competitive. Take the time to get stronger, go up in a weight class and eat accordingly, or work your way down, or hire someone who knows how to do that for you.
Yeah. The bigger I get, the better I perform. You know, as someone who used to walk around at 185 and I walk around at currently 159 right now,
Big difference in leverage.
yeah, I mean, I total just about the same now as what I did at 185. So there's not a loss of strength, but I do feel better moving, and I can get through a set of 10 without having a heart attack. So
You're
that's
no longer
exciting.
intimidated by a set of stairs. when I was competing in strongman, I was eating my way up to 250 to be more towards the top of that weight class. That was the worst when you get somewhere and be like, oh shit, there's stairs.
Well, okay, I'm afraid of escalators, so I'll always choose stairs.
Yeah, well now I don't mind it. Being a lighter athlete and being that you're a lighter athlete, I don't think you mind the stairs so much. It's like, okay, cool, let's get up the stairs. But
Yeah.
back then, when you're eating your way up, any exertion that's outside of the gym, you start to dread.
Yes, it's very true. I train at night if I had to compete in the morning. This is not news to anyone. Everyone knows that meets are in the morning. So, like if you know that you have to compete in the morning and you think that's going to be an issue, why wouldn't you just start lifting in the morning?
Train at night, but I think it's in the morning.
It's just the worst. Not training with kilo plates. I get that not everyone has access to kilo plates, and they can make a difference, but I feel like the difference more comes mentally than anything because it's slower.
It's really only on the deadlift. And I always laugh when someone's like, they have to squat on kilo plates and they have to bench with kilo plates, and it is such a luxury, not a necessity. There's a different feeling how kilo plates break the floor because they're thinner and they're packed in tighter. The bar does not flex as much. Now, if you train and compete on a power bar as opposed to a deadlift bar, this doesn't matter at all. That bar doesn't have flex anyways. It's the exact same thing, so it's ridiculous that they need competition plates. But if you're also only deadlifting 200, 300, or 400 pounds, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when you get to 5, 6, 7, 800, because then you start to feel a significant difference in how that bar breaks the floor with imperial versus kilo plates. So it is very different in that aspect. But if you were like a novice, that's really not what's holding you back. Even if you're an intermediate, that's not holding back. That's holding back like the top 1% on having the highest level of deadlift and training it off the floor with something different. Because it's a different position. You might be able to get a higher hip start with wider plates than you would with the kilo plates. But that level of flex isn't happening when you're only pulling 3 something.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, I think it's also mental as well. I've had lifters who have never pulled on kilo plates, never competed, and they said to me before their meet, I'm going to do worse with deadlifts because it's on kilo plates.
That's
well,
a nocebo effect.
Well, how do you know if you've never even pulled on them before, you've never competed? That's not something that you would know. So that's entirely mental to go into that meet thinking that you will pull less because it's kilos. Mm-hmm. So that's lame. They ate too much Taco Bell.
That's legitimate. I feel your pain. Somebody with a very sensitive stomach, I feel your pain on that one. I'm going to give that one credit. You win.
I didn't eat enough. That's a very common one. It goes along with the I don't have time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. If you have the capability to meal prep and you don't, that is your own fault. If you know, like generally people train 4 to 5 days a week, every single week, and they know what time they train every single week. So not eating, even
your
though
6
you
p.m.
know,
training session
like,
wasn't a surprise to you.
Yeah.
It's been coming up all day.
I get that like work schedules can get a little bit weird, but that's when your prioritization has to come in and you have to realize, oh shit, I should probably eat in order to perform. That's generally the number one for people. Being vegan was an excuse listed, and to me, if that's what your excuse is, that's also really lame because that's a lifestyle choice. So if you're choosing to be vegan and also choose to powerlift, you can't blame your lack of progress in powerlifting on being vegan. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like those are both choices that you make for what you do in your life.
Sure.
So if you choose to be vegan, you can still be strong. I know plenty of people that are still stronger than me that are vegan. So that's also a lame excuse. I can't get to the gym. Once again, same 24 hours in a day. It comes down to prioritization. I drove all day. That one, yes, it sucks sitting in the car all day. We have both sat in cars all day, sat on planes all day, traveled 8-9 hours in planes all day, came home and still trained. And
or traveled and trained right to the gym.
Yeah.
Did it in California. Got off the
Yep.
plane, checked into the hotel, went to the gym, and we lifted.
Yeah, and you may not feel great. Like, I'm sure, yeah, you're going to be a little stiff, but why not just be more intentional with your warm-ups instead of just saying, I can't train today because I've been in the car all day. Kind of lame, not here for it. Leverages, that I also find that one lame because you can work with any type of leverage that you have. It's just a matter of finding which one works best for you.
Sure. And you see this often. Somebody with long arms like myself is like, oh, bench sucks for me because I have long arms, but you know what, your deadlift's going to rock.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. If you have short arms, your bench is going to rock, but your deadlift's going to suck. And that's the hand you're dealt with, so you play to your strengths. You don't focus on your weaknesses.
Yep. So, and I mean, totals are built usually more from
It's
the
a
deadlift.
it's a 3-lift total,
Yeah.
not a 1-lift total.
Right. And this last one, I saved it for last because I just thought it was hilarious. Trevor and I both laughed at it yesterday. After someone was red lighted, they stepped off the platform and said, I can't believe they're
Work for you. So if they give you a sugar pill and tell you it's the best drug in the world, chances are you're going to feel the effects of the drug, even though it was just an inert sugar pill, from the power of belief. The nocebo effect works in the same way. You can talk yourself out of things or out of your potential by believing these things. So, okay, I didn't eat enough, my session's going to suck. You believe that. The reality is there's more than enough stored glycogen in your system. As long as you're hydrated, you're going to be fine. But you've convinced yourself otherwise. I'm going to be stiff, I've traveled all day. You've just told yourself what you're going to be without you actually trying it. It's too cold to squat. Again, mental. My best actual sleep squat in a meet is done when it was 38 degrees outside. I had nothing but a spandex singlet on and some knee sleeves, Judges are too strict. No, that's their job. Their job is to tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's going to pass. It's a human error. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, sometimes it's in your favor, sometimes it's out of your favor. People who pick on that are just, that's a futile thing because it's human perspective. There's not too strict. There is a rule that is supposed to be upheld, and the rule book, as explained to you ahead of time, trained to the standard of the rule book. There's small nuances, how fast your press command is, or what's considered butt off the bench, or everyone's perspective of squat depth can vary, but it's supposed to be hip crease below knee, so that's what it's supposed to be. But it's it's up to human perspective of that one, and sometimes things go in the speed of the moment. They may not notice things, or they may notice things. But those are all excuses, and we're trying to avoid that nocebo effect. I had a lifter this week message me or send me her recap, and somebody had told her her glute medius was weak. This lifter squats 440 and deadlifts 440. If you believe your glute medius is weak and you can squat and deadlift 440, I've got a bridge to sell you to Brooklyn, because your glute medius isn't weak, it's not inhibited. You may have faulty mechanics or pattern issues or sequencing issues, but when someone muscle tests you, what often happens is a clinician is the most popular way to get nocebo. A clinician will tell you something is wrong by a muscle test, that you're supine with your knee up on the table kind of thing. That's not the same as moving load. Mm-hmm. It tested weak in that position. You're not in the same position when you're moving weight. So it's one of those things we have to be very careful to fall for, and you get this all the time. Somebody will go to their chiropractor, and the chiropractor takes x-rays, and you have degenerative disc disease and spinal stenosis. We all do. You're not special, snowflake. We all have that as we age. It's a very easy, simple diagnosis to give someone, but it's a bullshit diagnosis that nocebo someone, so you show up 3 times a week and pay their fees for 12 months, and you're going to feel better every time you walk out of that office. But are you actually going to be better? No, because that's degenerative from aging. It's not degenerative from lifting. It's just what happens as you age. So it's like, selling a cup of ice to someone when it's freezing outside. They don't need that. It might be refreshing, but they should probably just wear less clothes and they won't be so hot. We have to be really careful of the nocebo effect when it comes to excuses and what you are talking to yourself, because that power of belief works in 2 different directions.
Yeah, I think I've actually had like 5 clients in the past 3 months come to me with some sort of chiro thing or massage therapist thing. Most recently was Hannah, who said that her glutes weren't strong, and once again, she's like 120 pounds and squats high 3s. Like
right.
Her
so her glutes aren't not strong.
Yeah. That one kind of irritated me. I had another client who tweaked an erector, we think, and she went to the chiro, and they told her she had degenerative discs and that she shouldn't lift.
Which, by the way, you couldn't see on an x-ray because Correct. It doesn't show soft tissue.
Yeah. So I actually called that one before she even told me what. I was like, let me guess, this is what they said. And she's like, yeah, actually, that's what they said. I had another client, and Heather is she's a very sweet girl. She's very, like, kind of nervous about getting hurt, like most people are. And a while ago, she went to the chiro and they told her the same thing, that she shouldn't lift anymore. And it made her cry because she was like, I can't lift anymore. I love lifting. And so that was a very long conversation that I had to have with her about the same thing. Once again, they only took x-rays. They told her that this was wrong, and like there was nothing that they could actually physically see from these x-rays that would give them the conclusion that they gave her. So she was noceboed into thinking that she couldn't lift again because of one thing that someone told her, and I told her she needed to get a new chiro. But
therein comes in the asshole part, because we could be guilty of this, not just in our self-belief, but as a training partner, as a coach, as a clinician, of delivering a nocebo effect by someone by giving an opinion in a poor context instead of a multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
You know, instead of the chiro saying, this might be an indication as to why you feel discomfort, let's use a multifaceted approach of core strengthening and hip mobility to get you back and optimal onto the bar. It was, you shouldn't lift.
Yep.
Without even asking the context of why that person lifted in the first place or what they do.
Didn't even know that she was like a power lifter.
Right.
You know, like this is what we do, like it's a specialized thing. So it is very irritating when, you know, someone tells you that you should be experiencing something that you're not experiencing, and then like Trevor mentioned, you believe yourself into that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you read something online that says this is what X should feel like, or this is what X should look like, and then you suddenly start analyzing all of your lifts and you're like, well, this doesn't feel like this and this doesn't look like this, you've now fucked yourself into oblivion for the rest of your training cycles until you can get out of your own head, because you assume that you're doing something wrong when you're probably doing nothing wrong. You're doing what's ideal for you, and that person that you read or what they said, that was ideal for them. That's the problem, is that most people aren't trying to find what's ideal for them. They're just trying to copy what someone else does, or, you know, poor coaching is like, this person needs to lift, every person needs to lift this way and only this way, and that's it. You know, if you're trying to make all your lifters squat like you, or deadlift like you, or bench like you, you're doing all of your lifters a disservice in that. And the nocebo is something that I feel like we talk about a lot, and I feel like I have a lot of lifters who get really in their head about these things, and it's hard to get out of that thought process of thinking like you're doing something wrong because someone told you you were doing something wrong.
For sure. So you have to look at this from a couple of different perspectives. Processing information that you hear. It may not always be the diagnosis or the things you want to hear or the coaching cues you want to hear, but how does it apply to you and what does it limit you from? Your beliefs are what limit you. So if you believe you can't do something, you won't do something. If you believe the temperature isn't optimal, it's not going to be optimal. We have to somehow have a short memory and clear our conscience of things that we've heard and find a way around that. And I always talk about reframing. You know, so you get to a gym or you get to a meet and it's super duper hot. Okay, cool. It's really warm in here. Let's get extra fluids. Let's get extra liquids. Let's get extra sodium around just in case I stay hydrated. Or the opposite. It's really cold in here. After every attempt, I want to have my jacket with me. Let me put that jacket on so I can stay warm in between attempts and do that stuff, and I'll take it back off. You have to reframe the problem with the solution. How can I deal with this? How can I help this? Instead of making the excuse of, oh, well, my day is screwed because of this.
Yep.
You know, that's the easiest thing. And then your communication circle is important too, is making it clear as what happened or why you're seeking help. With the case of the clinician, the doctor, when they go to the doctor, they're just like, oh, my back hurts, I hurt it lifting. And of course the doctor's like, well, easiest way to tell someone who's hurting themselves lifting is to stop lifting.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, I've hurt my back, I want to get back to lifting, I compete in powerlifting, this is really important to me. What do you think my course of action should be? Because sometimes we're like, well, the doctor didn't communicate that to me. You also didn't communicate it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we have to understand of excuses and assholes. It's easier to make the excuse than it is to make the exception. Learn to make the exception as your first priority than to make the excuse. So all of those things sometimes are either out of your control or in your control, depending on whether you cause it yourself, such as too much sodium, or out of your control, such as the weather conditions. But how you reframe it is 100% in your control and within your capabilities, looking at solutions rather than identifying problems.
Most of these really can come down to being mitigated by staying ready. Trevor and I talked about this weekend, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that's really, honestly, super true. And I know that everyone freaks out like 4 weeks out from their meet and thinks that they're not ready. Everyone does that. Mm-hmm. That's just, that is what it is. Things start to get heavy, you start to feel like shit, and it's getting really close, and of course everyone has high expectations for themselves. But if you've been training for an extended period of time, you've been preparing yourself for meet day. Literally, your prep is preparation for one day. Literally. Like, there's no reason that any of these excuses should really come into play if you've prepared the whole time. Your strength is there. Your strength isn't going to change because it was a little bit too cold, or because you didn't drink an extra glass of milk, or
Mom.
Or because you drove all day. Like, all of us do all of these things every single day. All of us drive in the car. All of us get busy. All of us forget to drink milk. I don't know.
His mother didn't buy it.
God damn her. Honestly.
God damn mom.
So like the whole preparation, it's there. You just have to trust that it's there and stop talking yourself into reasons why it wouldn't be there. Depending on your coach, you go through 12, 10, 8 weeks of meet prep and you peak for it, and it's for one day. And it's really under conditions that are generally better than your gym conditions because it's controlled. You know when you're going to squat. Your name, you can't account for things that fuck up on meet day. No one can account for that. But like, it's a very controlled day. You know when you're squatting, you know when you're benching, you know when you're deadlifting. You generally know about how much time you have in between attempts. You get to sit down and do nothing in between flights. You get to relax. You've had a whole week to deload, basically. So there is no reason why you should not be prepared for meet day.
Yeah, you stay ready. You stay ready by planning and preparing, knowing what your good habits are, what your bad habits are, what you have to do, not listening to the naysayers. But those naysayers are really you. They're not out there. If someone doesn't like it, they just don't like it. It doesn't matter what they say. They're not a naysayer. They're not a detractor. They're not claiming you can't do it. They're not a non-believer. That has to come within you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or does, because that's your own intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So get rid of the excuses, reframe the problem, find your solutions, stay ready, which is something I love. I always talk about that, staying ready. And I always laugh when I get lifted and says, "Hey coach, when do we start prep?" I'm like, "We've been prepping the whole time."
It's one of those things, like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, if you did an arbitrary date, 12 weeks out. We started prep 12 weeks out. But the second I'm planning and programming a bar lift for you in periodization, we're already prepping for that moment. We're staying ready and doing what we need to, and then refining and optimizing the competition list, but we're always building, we're always staying ready. We're trying to be strong in every aspect we can, and sometimes that's behavioral. Actually, oftentimes it's behavioral to stay ready is your mindset. I've jumped in on meets on 2 weeks notice just because I was ready anyways and had great meets, and I spent 6 months prepping for a meet and didn't have the same result because I had 6 months to think about what could go wrong instead of 2 weeks to think about what I'm going to do and have fun with it. So it's just a matter of staying ready, always doing what you need to do, prioritizing, taking control of yourself, and not disbelieving in your abilities, but believing in your abilities, which means you're doing the things necessary to progress.
Yeah, stop doubting your capabilities. Stop using excuses for things that are arbitrary that don't actually mean anything.
Except for the Taco Bell one, you shouldn't eat that shit.
Like, realistically, if your excuse is, "I ate too much Taco Bell or X fast food," that is literally your own fault. Like, no one forced you to eat that thing. You literally chose to do that. And if you are someone who doesn't normally eat those things and you make the choice to do it, you have to live with the consequences of your actions. So I don't care if that's your fucking excuse. Nope.
How do you feel about Panda Express?
Well, we like Panda Express. But
it wouldn't be my pre-workout meal though, I tell you that.
Absolutely not. It just sits in your stomach like a brick, but we know these things. So if you're like, "Man, I have a heavy squat session today. Taco Bell sounds like a good idea." No, that's never a good idea. Like, why?
Yeah.
If you know these things about yourself, like Trevor knows that he has a sensitive stomach, so he's probably not going to eat those things before if he can avoid it, which he can because he makes his own, he chooses his own actions,
I plan, I prepare, I stay ready.
Yep.
The key to this one, stay ready.
Stay ready. Don't be an asshole.
But unless you have a really good excuse. I'm kidding.
I probably don't like any of your excuses, so you can try to get.
And they are that. They are excuses. At the end of the day, when the meet's coming up, the behaviors you have to do, when you should be resting and recovering, when you shouldn't be pushing past your limits, that going out and drinking till 4 in the morning was a really bad idea, but yet you did it anyways. Don't make excuses for a poor performance. Accept responsibility. Responsibility was you chose to do that. If you chose to party and you chose to eat shit food and you choose to stay up late and you choose to play video games, your outcome is your responsibility as well. The plan is only just that. The plan is just the plan. You have to execute the plan to the best of your abilities, and if you were not, that's what you're going to get. You get out what you put in. It is unrewarding in any other way except for the efforts you put into it.
Yep. So thanks for tuning in for episode 15 of us ranting about how much we hate excuses. I very much enjoyed that. It was very cathartic.
I got that off my chest.
This weekend we'll be in Fort Lauderdale this weekend we'll be in Fort Lauderdale for an APF meet.
December 5th.
Following weekend on December 11th in New York. I do have the Uplift event coming up with the Healthy Mind Movement, January 16th in Margate. Is that the name of the
Margate Barbell. Yep.
It's at Margate Barbell. I just didn't know.
It's in Margate.
So that's coming up on January 16th. Couple other little travel things too. I think after New York is Oklahoma. So we're all over the place again. And guess what? We're probably still going to train even though we gotta sit on a plane all day. So
I either plan we train before or we train as soon as we get off the plane. That's just what it is.
Yep. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned every Tuesday for a new episode from the Successory Show from your favorite host, your favorite most pale Floridians.
I'm vibrant.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Your most vibrant host.
That's what it
The
is.
host with the most.
You can check us out on YouTube. If you just search Trevor Jaffe on YouTube, you'll be able to find all the episodes that we upload there of the video version of this podcast. And also, if you're listening and you like it, leave a 5-star review. You can follow us on Instagram. Trevor's is at Jaffe Strength. Mine is at Riley Presnell. Interact with us there. Save our posts because we try to do what we can to educate the community about different things. And that's it. So we will talk to you guys next Tuesday.
Have a great one.